some of the people most committed to organizations burn out the fastest because they're, as you pointed out a little while ago, because they're the ones who are staying later.
Well, and they also are the ones who tend to become more one-sided. So as they stay later, the job actually suffocates out the other aspects of a person's life, like hobbies and social groups and family time, which family time, it could be good or bad, depending on the responsibilities in the family. But, like basically the things that we do that make us feel like we have human connection and that they keep away the loneliness, the things that we value and the things that in the groups of people who value us.
Yeah.
And those people who are highly identified with those organizations and working late, like there's just less and less time for those safety mechanisms, those valves, basically.
Yeah.
That even when you're tired, when you could be tired from work and then go out to like one of these groups of important people and you get recharged.
Yeah. It's like, it's interlocking social support.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a lot that kind of props me up.
Yep. And then, there are another type of a group of that have burnout, and they're people who do stop caring about their job or their work, and like they're getting ground down. They're holding it for like an instrumental reason. Like, they got people at home that they care about, and so they just need this job, and so they can get ground down into basically the burnout. But that's a little bit a little bit different than this because the job wasn't fulfilling in the first place. I think burnout is a little bit of a surprise because it's like your biggest supporters, hardest workers, and all of a sudden
they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this discussion, we're saying, and we don't say this a lot, because a lot of times you can't see things, can't predict, but this you should see coming.
Mm-hmm. And when people aren't taking their vacation, you need to find out why.
Yeah. Yeah. And when they're look tired, I mean, it's, some of what we're talking about is kind of, it feels like it's management 101, but this is a little more nuanced in the following ways. You can't just ask people if they're burnout because you're going to get an overwhelming number of false positives from people who just haven't had enough sleep in the last few days, or people who are raising young kids or whatever, who wear out their Netflix account too much or whatever. And that you got to wipe all that out. And so that's one way that burnout is difficult because people don't actually answer the question correctly. Another way that burnout is a little tricky is that sometimes it impacts the people who you want to keep the very most, and they're actually the worst in the mechanism that you've brought up a couple different times today, which is that basically more identified people double down more on the job. It crowds out other parts of their life, and so they're faster to flame out. And these are the people we definitely don't want to lose. And then you have people who are in the job and they're finding that over time, it's extracting more of a toll on them. And all of these things build slowly. So we've got the time.
We've basically got some gas in the tank. And so it'll take some time for it to really deplete a person.
Yeah, months.
Possibly
and so years.
Yeah.
Not weeks. Not weeks and short months, but months and months and months into, in some cases, to years people can go.
I think the last thing that I would put out there is, and I know we're going to do an episode on it, but one of the things that causes burnout, and I know this is going to sound weird given the conversation previously, but one of the things that causes burnout is loneliness, like a sense that you don't have the social connection. And that seems weird given that we're talking about people who are working in organizations and presumably having social connection. But a lot of people in organizations are having a connection with somebody who only needs something. It's more transactional, like a customer. You still might have some nice moments, but by and large, it's more transactional. And sometimes positions and organizations are very solitary, even though like you're working around people. So, a physician is in a clinic and they have MAs and they have front desk people. So technically they're surrounded by people, but really every 15 minutes they're going into a room and trying to figure out what's going on with the patient. And that transaction between the patient and the doctor is, the patient is needy. That's why they're there. And the doctor is trying to provide it while trying to figure out a puzzle. And so that's just an example. There are a lot, I think, of jobs and organizations where you can be surrounded by people and still be extraordinarily lonely and feel like you don't have a connection. And that gets amplified when you're somebody highly committed and like trying to drive forward with, doing a lot of work, because the work is basically making you get buried where you're not really making connections. It gets further amplified when you're coming in early and staying late and easing out the other people in your life and the other groups in your life that might give you social connection. And so, one of the remedies to burnout is social connection.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, from an organizational standpoint, that is something that you do have some ability to impact.
Yep.
We don't want a lot of mandatory fun, but an occasional retreat.
Yeah.
That is actually fun.
Yeah. I'm always surprised when we convene groups, how the comment we get a lot is, I didn't know other people were feeling this way. It makes me feel like I'm not alone.
Yeah. And just, there are things that you can do to try to help people inside your organization form connections with each other.
Yeah.
Like we have a niece right now who just started college in a foreign country. And that particular university has something that they call academic families. And so upperclassmen basically group up, and then they have underclass, like freshmen who come in. And then I think there's actually like adults who are also part of each academic family. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But basically everybody gets this other group of people that they're part of, and they have fun together. And there are like traditions embedded in that. And so, in a place where she could be very lonely.
Other side of the world.
Although thank God for technology.
Yeah.
But still, it's not us there, that she's getting other forms of connection, that the organization, the university, is actually functioning. They have rituals and things on the calendar and policies and standards, I'm sure, surrounding this, because I can only imagine. But they're making sure that every single student has a group to belong to that is small and manageable. Organizations can do that.
Yeah. Variants of that.
Yeah.
Weirdly, some of your most committed people can burn out the fastest because they're taking on a lot of extra roles. They're staying late. They're coming in early.
They're easing out their social connections for work.
The good news is, as managers, we have time. This doesn't happen fast. It happens slowly, months and sometimes years.
And there are tools to identify it. Like there's things you can look for that are clearly identifiable that you might have somebody with a problem.
Sometimes we have to go to battle the organization and unwind some policies that are preventing the vacations, that are causing things to pile up when people come back, disincentives to taking time off, and so forth. But it's worth paying attention to, so that we keep the people who are committed to the work, committed to the customers. And this one is kind of obviously the right thing to do as a manager as well.